Hello, and welcome to Confidently Wrong, a show by regular dudes talking with confidence about content we have no right to speak about with any kind of authority, but do it anyway. I'm Wesley Nakamura, and as always, I'm joined by Mike Smith, award-winning director Brian Redondo, and Savon Jones, aka Captain Vani. This is episode 33, and on today's show, we share what we're loving, including a long-running cartoon and a gorilla man who farms. I'm confident that it's going to be the best show you've ever listened to, and well, hey, if it's not, you can always ask us for a refund. Welcome back, friends. It's great to be talking with you. It's not like we're recording these back to back to back or anything. So this is clearly live, and we just recorded this like yesterday. We're going to talk about what we're loving because we haven't done one of these shows in a little bit, and there's been some things that we've been seeing that maybe individually we've been enjoying, but not together as a crew here. So our first what we're loving goes to Savon. Sorry, I said I was going to go to me first. Savon, I'm putting you on the spot. What have you been loving lately?
Yeah, so had to think a lot about this because I'm like, what do I love? Do I love anything? Boy. What is love, right?
Ooh, yeah, what is love?
What is that sensation?
Yeah, what is this?
Can you really identify
Night at the
it?
Roxbury. Shout out right there.
But I've been still watching. I've mentioned them before, but I'm a huge fan of the YouTube channel Corridor Crew. It's a team of visual effects artists, and they do movie making, and they do a lot of dope stuff. But my favorite series on their channel is VFX artists, because they're like high tier artists react, and they react to movies, TV shows. They've even done spinoffs where they have like stuntmen come in and animators come in to get their perspective, and they break down just famous scenes from shows, movies, whatever.
Is there a particular episode where if someone's never seen them and was like, oh, that sounds kind of cool, which episode would you say they should start with?
If you like MCU stuff, maybe that. But honestly, their earlier videos is the content. Actually, you can see the quality jump in the 2 years they've been doing it. So I actually might not recommend their earlier videos. Not because they're not good. So what's the video? They did one on the Snyder Cut. They did a literally just comparing the two side by side and talking about the shots and what was changed. And it's a really good case study of filmmaking. Keep in mind, and this is why I love it, I don't know anything about filmmaking. I am a casual. I know diddly squat. But them breaking down...
Not award-winning director.
I am not Brian Redondo.
Someday.
I don't do
Someday,
this.
man.
One day.
You got 10 years.
Today is not that day. But it's great because they break down... They explain why a visual effects shot was good, why it was bad. For older movies, how did they do it? What was the movie magic before you had programs? When they do the stuntmen ones, they bring in stuntmen who break down good fight scenes and bad fight scenes. And it's given me a much better appreciation for filmmaking as a whole because a lot of little things I take for granted. Like now I'm aware of when a fight has a lot of cuts and it's clear that there was bad choreography or not a lot of time to put it together. Without a trained eye, I would have never noticed those things. And so it lets me just enjoy movies and shows with a much greater appreciation for the work that goes into it. And again, I'm not an expert, but it's always nice to be a layperson and have these experts break it down and make it digestible for your favorite things. And so it's just giving me a big appreciation. And like, I really like that. Like, I know a good, like when I see a fight
just like our show, guys.
No, it's like when I see a fight sequence now in a movie, I'm like, oh, this is really well choreographed. And I see other ones and I'm like, oh, this is really poorly choreographed. And I like that they've helped and give me that.
He says that out loud to himself.
No, but I really am like, oh my goodness, this is kind of like not well put together. But, you know, they've done their job of making it digestible for a layperson, and that's a really hard thing to do.
I would recommend the Mandalorian one. I think that's because that has such cool visual effects and the way they do it with those big screens. So like those guys give a lot of insight into why that's so impressive.
When you said, like, oh, this is not good choreography at all, I was thinking, like, in my head, Savon's about to pen a letter to the director of this of this cinematic...
To whom it may concern.
No, yeah. Like, they showed an episode of Iron Fist once with the fight scene. They had a fight coordinator, stunt guy come in, and they broke down why it wasn't good. It was like, hey, The lighting
he's
isn't
white.
good. These black outfits are in a dark night, so this is bad filming, and like things I just I wouldn't think about. So like, yeah, dude, it's like, yeah, it's fire.
Wait, can I say something about that? So Miles, friend of the show. Wait, also in our last episode, I forgot to give Miles a hat tip. He did alert us to the fact that the TVA aesthetic and Mobius were based on a real life person. His name is Mark Grunwald, who was a writer and editor at Marvel, and was actually someone who was involved in the keeping of the continuity for Marvel because he had such a great memory for details, that when they developed the TVA, they actually gave him a little homage by making all of the agents kind of look like him, and then obviously that was happening in the 70s and 80s, and so that aesthetic gets kept over in the show. Miles also brought to our attention that wait, what were we talking about, Savon? Sorry.
Great hosting right now.
Oh, man, this is a
Pinnacle
fail.
of podcasting.
No, I was talking about the
We
corridor
will
crew
fix
people.
it in post.
Oh. So when me and Miles were talking about Warrior, he put me onto this this podcast that interviews the choreographer for Warrior, who is also the stunt and fight choreographer for Iron Fist. And he gives a ton of shade to the guy who plays Iron Fist. So go check them out.
So I was right.
I'll put the for sure. I'll put the podcast in the link. I forget what the actual podcast name.
He was
is.
on Corridor Crew too, I think. He was talking about how they had also no time to prep for the fighting either. They had like minimal time.
Speaking of Iron Fist, though, can I just say I miss those Netflix MCU TV shows. Aside from Iron Fist, like Daredevil, Jessica
Yeah.
Jones, Luke Cage, like those are cool. We need more street level stuff.
All right. What I'm loving this week has been a great little, like comfort blankets. What do they call it? Safety blanket for me. So I've
Nice.
enjoyed Top Gear, the version with Jeremy Clarkson and James May, Richard Hammond. For many years, they moved on to the Grand Tour at Amazon because Jeremy Clarkson punched somebody in the face who was working on the show for no
Whoops.
reason, for like not giving him the right like food or something. It was dumb, and
He thinks he's Christian
idiot.
Bale or something.
yeah. I mean, it was like that, but like for no, like
How dare you?
so.
Great.
So Clarkson, so the whole crew gets fired, or they don't get their contract renewed, basically, and so they end up at Amazon. So Amazon has produced a show with him called Clarkson's Farm, and so the short premise of it basically is that he's rich from all of his days as a TV host and writer and all of this stuff, and from Top Gear. So he is bought, or he now lives on this giant farmland in England. And he decides, well, the person who normally runs the farm is retiring, and so I'll just go ahead and learn how to do it. It seems like a fun thing. I'm, 50 years old or whatever, and it'd be something cool for me to learn how this. I'm going to live out here. I might as well, do what's out here. And so they follow him on this journey, and I don't know how much of it is scripted, right? Like his style is generally he scripts a lot of what he's going to say. And what they're going to do. But obviously some of it is also impromptu because it's kind of reality show-ish and just following him around and what he's doing. And the reason I say it's a safety blanket is it feels a lot like Top Gear. They've got beautiful cinematic shots. They have his insights in both being hilariously funny and juvenile. And they set up certain situations that like wouldn't happen in real life, but like make for good television. And the beautiful
Example?
writing. Like, the bit that they do pretty much in everything is like he says, well, I noticed that blank X thing is happening. Like I noticed that my grass grows really long here. Well, I have a plan. And that's how he basically starts off the show.
Mow
And
the
then-
lawn.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't want to mow the lawn because that takes him a long time. And so his grand plan is I'm going to buy some sheep, let them in this field, and then they will go ahead and mow the lawn for me and I don't have to do it, right? And so it's all these like get rich quick schemes that he has that like obviously are not going to work out. And he knows it ahead of time too, but like is also just like heavily leaning into the bit. It's just been a riot. I mean, I was laughing really hard for different bits and pieces of it, trying to pretend that I didn't remember that he's a jerkhole, and just enjoying the like just juvenility of it. I don't know how to say that word. Juvenileness.
It's close enough.
Just say it confidently and be wrong with it.
Yeah, the juvenility of it. It's just that's my kind of humor. I think it's really funny. And
I think that should be the show title for Juvenile's next reality show.
and it's just it's actually, I mean, it has a lot of heart too. There's moments of reflection and deep, stuff that are pretty cool. And it's just he hires this young farmer who's like 21 to help him, and who's very knowledgeable about what he's doing. And he actually steals so many scenes. He's just really funny, but also really knowledgeable. He knows what he's doing, and Jeremy obviously does not. And so their interactions actually make a lot of the show really like kind of work. Just a cool show. If you just need something lighthearted and fun to like binge on whenever you want, I highly recommend it. It's actually good enough that my wife Jennifer was watching me watch this show. She wasn't into it in the first few episodes, but
She's
actually
Watching you watch it.
Yeah,
Does she
yeah.
often do that?
You just
No,
stare at
are
it.
you her
What's going
television?
on in your house?
Shut
got, like,
up.
some
You know how
binoculars.
this works. Like, you don't understand how living rooms work.
She's
All right,
behind
so-
a fern.
Yeah.
She actually sat down with the last two episodes and watched them with me. Like, she was just from passing back and forth.
So she
head
went
saw.
from watching you to watching the show.
Exactly right. I mean,
She's gonna marry that show. Be
It's
careful.
that good of a show.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not saying a whole lot. But anyways, I do recommend this to everybody. I don't think it's just a Wesley show. I do think like you guys would enjoy it. As not sitting down as like prestige TV, you're not expecting like that, but it's enjoyable, it's engaging. A+ for me for sure. On
Is
that one.
it aimed at
Non-farmer tries
hipsters?
to farm.
Is it what?
Yeah, is it aimed at hipsters, like non-farmers trying to farm? Like all
No,
those hipsters
you know
want to
who Jeremy's
do,
like, right? No,
Live on
you
a
know who Jeremy's
compound.
like.
farm to table.
Jeremy
crap
is
and-
not a hipster. I mean, Jeremy hates like electric cars. Jeremy hates like anything that's like not like Gorilla Man, like masculinity. You know, like,
Gorilla Man.
that's
Gorilla
his
man.
yeah, that's his whole shtick in like
The
character.
Tim Taylor of masculinity.
Exactly. He's exactly that. I mean, he's pretty conservative. He's not like ridiculously conservative, but he's conservative. So it was just a fun show. I'd recommend it for sure. Go make some Bezos some more dollars. Mike, nope. Brian, what are you into this week?
Really
Fake out.
struggling
I love
today.
how you keep
Yeah.
like saying like you. Nope, not you.
Nope. Yoink.
Such a tease.
That's a
You're
tease, that's a
tease
teacher
as
thing.
a host.
Yeah,
Oh,
I have
no,
a lot
that
of
kid gonna
things
say
to
something
say,
dumb.
so the audience is on the edge of their seat.
They're ready.
So just be quick
Mike,
with it,
hey,
Brian.
Mike, you're the grand finale here.
Let
You
him
know,
off
you
the
should be
leash.
All right. I gotta open for the headliner here. All right.
You got it. You got it.
Fine.
Hey, I set you up with a really lame segment there, so you have nothing here to do but shine. Go ahead.
Yeah,
get
the
top
floor,
billing.
the bar is so low.
I'm just gonna do a double backflip over the bar right now. Wes knows me pretty well, but for those of you that don't, I'm not somebody who works hard or works a lot, and I spend a lot of time
He
procrastinating.
says that, but he has been working really hard lately.
Well,
Just
so
by
here's-
nature, he's opposed to hard work.
Here's what
love
I do,
it.
right?
He's not a
identify with
capitalist.
it.
So when I start my day, I open up like my computer, all my files, whatever. I'm like, I look like I'm about to get done, right? But really, what I do is I procrastinate for about 8 hours and feel very harsh Catholic guilt about it during that entire period. And what I'm doing procrastinating is usually just watching stuff on YouTube. And what they have pushed forward in my face recently
The algorithm
has been Desus and Mero clips from their Showtime show. And I like missed the train on Desus and Mero back when they were on Vice or Viceland or whatever. And I don't have Showtime, so I don't watch their normal show. But I watch their YouTube clips because these guys are the most hilarious people in all of entertainment right now.
Would
I
they
gotta
only
say.
be hilarious to New Yorkers, or are they just hilarious?
Probably, and that's all that matters, my friend, because
The
we are the
world revolves
tastemakers.
around New York City, Wes.
I know,
don't know if
people
you've
come
heard.
here for
That's
a
what the world's gonna
reason. And
All
like
you Austin people think you got it, but you really
I'm a
don't.
Californian.
yeah, like,
Even worse. Even worse.
they have the most delusions of grandeur over there. Because really they all just want to move to New York, but it's too small and there's not enough space. So So Desus and Mero, for those of you that don't know, are these like just two normal dudes from the Bronx, like very, very much like oozing the character of like every single person I've ever met from the Bronx, right? And they're
But
just,
not
like,
to say that they're not uber talented at what they do.
they're phenomenally talented, and that's
Yeah.
the thing about them. They are so talented that you might miss it because I think it's actually they build it into their shtick, right? Like you might just mistake them as a couple dudes from the block talking, but they're extremely quick with all of their jokes. They're on top of every single reference in the world. And they're just genuinely hilarious. But part of what makes it even more hilarious is that they have really good chemistry with each other. So, they build off of jokes. And they just say a lot of like off color things about what's going on in the world that you probably think of, but have never heard put in such a like blunt, honest, like street level kind of way. And that's what they do. And they've been really blowing up recently. They did an interview in the past few months. The most recent one was with Don Cheadle, which is fantastic. They have a really good time with him. Before that, they did one with Yo-Yo Ma, which is hilarious. And it was right around the time that DMX had passed away. So they get Yo-Yo Ma to play the Rough Riders anthem. Hilarious. Before that, they did one with Barack Obama. And Obama was trolling them about the Knicks. So they were like, hold up, we canceling this interview. Good luck with your book. And they got up out of their chairs. Like, they can do that with Obama. That is how, like,
They just ended
like,
the interview?
honest these guys are. Well, no, it was a joke. Like,
Oh, okay, all right.
they're about to walk out and they're like, good luck. They sat back down.
All right.
But they took they were taking a lot of heat from Obama about the Knicks, which on it, like, even that premise is just like insane. It's such good stuff. And it's always there for me when I need to waste like 8 hours. So these two guys are great comics right now. I also want to give shout out to a comic from yesteryear, Mr. Conan O'Brien, who also ended his like 28-year run doing late night comedy recently, and his ending finish in late night with like all of it is gold, right? He did some like really good interviews with Bill Hader and Jack Black and stuff, and revisiting like all his material from the past nearly 3 decades of comedy. He's like, I said this before, he's the guy behind the Timekeepers, right? Like all the comedy that we're enjoying right now is directly linked to Conan O'Brien from the 90s because it was so weird and absurd, and like the masturbating bear, the inappropriate TV channel, like Preparation H. Raymond, like the giant whale on set, like all these like crazy antics, all Conan O'Brien. And
Did he do
deserves
Comic
a
the
lot of
Insult Dog
praise.
too? Wasn't that him?
Yes, that's from his show. It's written by Robert Smigel and voiced by Robert Smigel, but a partner of Conan's. But yes, it's part of the Conan verse. So looking forward to whatever he's got next. Oh, and he also did a podcast with Desus and Mero. Also good. Also on YouTube. Go listen to that.
So really, you're
look
just
these two
shouting
dudes
out
up.
YouTube.
Yeah, look these two
Yes.
dudes up. So
Thank you,
like,
algorithm. I bow down to you as my overlords. of
YouTube, get us
content.
that sponsor money, bro. All right. Savon, did you have any reactions to that? Or we get into Mike?
So they have like, so these two dudes, so they have street level takes, but what are they like it's a black dude and
They're both black.
Oh,
like
Desus
demographic
is
wise.
Jamaican, I think, and Mero, I think, is Puerto Rican.
Like-
Yeah.
Does that factor heavily into like their takes and the format and how the show is done? Like,
Oh,
like if I
hell
watch
yeah.
the show, well, I'll
for
sit
sure.
here and be
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh, I feel heard.
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
These dudes are
Absolutely.
like, they're like,
I mean, you felt heard
they're
by
like
Captain
those
America
dudes that-
having a little thing on the little side.
Yeah, but
of
that's
the,
levels.
The docks.
There's levels to it. There's levels to it.
these are guys that you like who could talk to any person in the spectrum of life, right?
They
like-
are a very
that relatable.
concentrate version of a specific type of New Yorker, and they have like done that very well. And like, it's you'll like it a lot.
Like Tim's
it's
dead
quality.
ass.
yeah.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
do they call people?
Yeah.
Do they call people
Oh,
B?
yeah.
Do they call people B?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
They talk about-
All right. Word.
They talk about
word.
people sunning other people.
Oh no. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
they're legit.
They're drinking
Okay.
Brugal while they're
You've
like,
never heard of them?
watching
I
the
think
show.
I've maybe
or
heard of
doing
them
the
in
show.
passing, but never just.
I
I'm
guarantee
gonna watch
like
it.
Tyler and Kendall, I've definitely heard of
Their
them.
podcast is called the Bodega Boys.
No,
so
just
that-
because they're
that
like
tells you
connected
something
to
about
the
them.
industry and like
They
you know,
probably heard
Desus
it. And Bodega
Mero.
Boy, I feel like I've heard that before somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
The one thing I'll say about them is, and you kind of said this, but like I love celebrity interviews and like I'm always looking for like who's the best. What's so great about their show and like their dynamic is it's particularly apparent when they're interviewing people. Like they become almost like this like unified thing, and it's just like they play off of each other with the person they're interviewing so well. They are very good.
All right.
Is it
Mike,
my
take us
turn
home.
now? 'Cause
Yeah,
I'm
take
just
us
gonna
home, bro.
rant. Okay. So from the very beginning of the show, I've made it clear, unapologetically, I'm pretty anti Neckbeard. I typically will maybe skew to liking or disliking things a little bit too much just to be counterculture to the Neckbeards. You know, Last of Us 2, part of the reason it's my favorite game of all time is because it made all those people so upset. So
I don't know
one
if that's a
thing-
bad stance in life, though, right? Like anything
It's an
that like
awful stance,
incels.
Wesley.
No, if incels.
It's just
if
it's
incels
just
like
a
it,
different
I
type-
should probably
it's just
not
a
like
different type of
Pretty much.
reactionary. But you know what? I'm gonna own it. So here's the thing. So one thing, and it's the same thing with Elon Musk. Like I've ranted about him on the show, and it's part of it is because of his fan base.
We'll have to
/
bleep that
clientele.
out too.
So we've talked about. Well, here's what I'll say. One thing that has become a huge, figure for people like that is Rick and Morty. I, like a lot of people, when it came out, I was like, this is a great show. It's very clever. It's very funny. It's pretty original. It rapidly turned into this thing for a lot of people on the internet. It's pretty cringy, but it's like, oh, it's so smart. It's so philosophical. It's just like, it became this whole thing it wasn't. Kind of like the way people are obsessed over the Joker and try and philosophize that character like way too deeply. Like stuff like that. And the
Incels
reality
love
is
the Joker.
a
Do we
lot
not
of
live in a
people that are really obsessed with the show think they're a Rick when they're really a Jerry, which means like they think they're so smart, they're so analytical, like they see the world in a different way. But in reality, like you're really just like propping up the show that's supposed to be stupid. Because the Neckbeards are so obsessed with it, like I said, like I've kind of like shifted towards not really like wanting to be a huge fan of it. Me and Savon have a lot of conversations about this because Savon really likes the show, and I'm like, yeah, I probably shouldn't talk about that too much because the next thing you know, you're a proud boy.
Whoops.
I just
I'm storming the
recently
Capitol.
watched.
For racists.
I just recently watched season 4. That show is so goddamn funny, dude. It is ridiculous. It is so good. And it's just like, it's so frustrating because it's like, now I'm watching and I'm just like, oh, people are going to take that point way too seriously. It's just like, it's like everyone wants to be a Rorschach, but like if you're watching Watchmen and you like, that's the character you want to emulate, it's a problem. It's the same thing with this show. Like Rick is supposed to be a bad, terrible, self-absorbed person who's just like, is way too like, has delusions of grandeur and applies that to every situation he's in. And I just think like that's such an issue with like the fan base of this show. But I feel like if you see it for what it really is, where it's supposed to almost be like, it's so like it tries to be such like a paint such a big picture, be so philosophical, but like the actual point is like nothing really means anything. Just sit down, shut up, and watch TV. Like once you kind of give into the actual nihilistic part of the show, it's so goddamn clever. It's one of the only shows that like consistently makes me laugh out loud. It's so well written. It builds on itself in such a good way that I'm starting to feel kind of embarrassed like saying how good Rick and Morty is, because I really don't want people to think like I view it as some kind of like philosophical theological nonsense. If you haven't watched season 4, like for whatever reason, I think there's a lot of people like me that are pretty hesitant to watching the show now because they don't want to be viewed like that. Everybody should watch the show. It is so clever. I think you would hate it, Wes, because it's so dark and it's like
It's not nice. Good things don't happen to people.
Yeah, it's just bad and dark and everyone's kind of a bad person, but it's
I hate those shows.
It's really
It's-
cynical.
It's
super
so cynical, but it is so clever. It is so well written. Everything about it is thought out, which is evident because it takes like a million years for a season to come out, which the Neckbeards get really upset about. They're not the most patient group.
Yeah, I get upset.
Yeah, well, Savon is working.
You're
Like,
on your route.
There's like this thing in the back of my head though that like every time Mike is describing like something bad about this show, like I'm like, well, that's kind of like Mike. Well, that's kind of like Mike too.
Oh my
Kinda
god!
like Mike.
Wow!
Got him.
Like
Is Mike
he's
a
not
Rick?
patient. He's got delusions of
I'm
grandeur.
patient. What do you? Oh,
like,
yeah,
you know, like all these
You know,
things.
he's not wrong. He's not wrong. The man's not wrong. Which is why I probably like the show, and maybe my hatred. Oh god, I'm just realizing this is like therapy. Maybe that's just a projection of my self-loathing, like hating people that take Rick and Morty so seriously when I'm talking about how much I like the show. But we don't need to unpack that right now.
Yeah.
Because we could do a whole 4-hour episode on that.
Yeah, I was getting red at the face talking with Mike saying, yo, dude, this show is hilarious. Please watch this show so we can talk about how funny it is, because I don't want to talk about it with
I
those
don't
people.
even want
I
to
just wanna
talk
laugh
about
at the
it. Though.
jokes.
Just like, I feel like
Oh.
I'm like doing something bad, like watching this.
The show is also sneakily well animated. The budget clearly has gotten better over the years. So even though it's like that American style of animation where the character designs aren't good, the actual animations and colors and storyboarding are really well done. So
It's so cool.
something
It's
to, you
so
know,
smart.
so it's like an American. So the character designs are kind of blah, but the art and colors are still really fun to look at, despite the dark nature of the show. It's actually kind of a really good juxtaposition.
Brilliant.
Good point.
Rick and Morty for all you
Season 4.
listeners. Season
I don't
4
even know when it
especially.
came out. I don't even know when it came out.
It's been around
but-
for a long time.
recently. Oh, it's
Season 4?
Oh
Season
no,
4
I mean the
came out
whole
recently.
show's been around.
Season 4 came out like, the show's
no,
been out
yeah,
since
but,
like,
but the show. What my whole point is, it started out as one thing, it became something else, and now I feel like it's maybe starting to level out a bit.
It's growth.
Rick and Morty's been out almost 8 years.
It's on Hulu.
Yeah,
It's a Hulu show.
Can I skip the first few seasons and just go to season 4?
no, I think there's even better. I'm like the show itself hasn't really changed that much, but the zeitgeist around it did change. So I would highly recommend starting from the beginning if you want to watch it. I think you would like it a lot, Brian, because it is very dark. And
He would
cynical,
love it.
But
I
it's
remember
very,
trying to watch it before.
It's very clever, but it's not a phone show. It's kind of like a show you watch while you're looking at your phone. It's not a phone show.
Right,
You
right,
have
right.
to
The
be,
jokes
like,
and
locked
references
in.
are very clever.
Yeah, it's. I think you would like it a lot because it's very thought out. It's very clever. It actually has like a weirdly well developed world and rules that the world kind of applies in.
Is this
but-
show brought
Oh,
to you by
you
the
need-
word clever? Do you get paid for
Yeah,
every time you
yes.
say the word
I
clever?
know,
What's happening
I
here?
know, which is so annoying.
You need a
of
high
saying
IQ,
that, and I
though.
kind of hate myself. Yeah, that's.
It's a high
All right,
IQ
all
show,
right,
though. I'll
we're
say you
ending
gotta
this
be
episode.
Would
really
you say-
intelligent.
Does
and
it have
different.
good world building?
It honestly does.
No,
which
it
is
doesn't,
like,
bro.
Got
It kind of does. It has just as much as.
Oh, we're
I
not
mean,
going
maybe,
into that.
Maybe it kind of doesn't.
I'm leaving that alone.
I don't know. I
Lore.
don't even
Doesn't,
know.
Mike.
Don't think about it too much. That's the whole point.
You didn't watch the show till
Think about
last
it.
week. Shut up.
No, I did. I used. Anyway.
All right. Rick and Morty on Hulu. Check out the lore and the
Did watch it
cleverness,
before last
cleverity.
week. I just
of it.
stopped.
All right. That'll be our What We're Loving show, friends. That was a good one. That was funny. These always tend to be kind of little romps around, just our brains and trying to figure our crazy selves out. Our socials, Twitter, Instagram, @confidently_pod. You always should leave us a comment. We want to hear more from you guys because, we're just stuck in our own little worlds right now.
We need mailbag questions.
Oh, that's
Send
true.
them.
We should do some mailbags. So go ahead and send us questions you have for us or about any shows that you're watching. Send us some recommendations on shows or games or movies that we should be watching. Maybe we missed something.
Or like anti-Semitic hate mail, if
Let's-
that's your vibe.
Hey,
Any engagement is engagement.
that's how you know you've made it. All right. And go ahead and visit all of our sponsors. You know what they are. We don't even need to say it. We just work them into the show all the time. We're out. Have a great one, people. Bye.
Deuces.
Yeah.